no, we are just all human. And in that recognition of common humanity comes a lot of forgiveness, comes a lot of space for imperfection. You know, it's like, hey, we're just doing the best we can in this moment if your heart is pointing in the right direction. But we're all just human. You know, we're not Superman.
This is the Mindfulness Experience podcast. My name is Keith Fifeson. On this podcast, I spoke with Laura Berland, who is the founder and executive director of the nonprofit Center for Compassionate Leadership. I had a great time speaking with Laura as she shared the principles and practices of compassionate leadership. She is a wise woman who is a serial entrepreneur who worked with many Fortune 500 media tech companies as a meditation teacher, yoga therapist, executive mentor, and digital creator. Laura is one of the most inspiring women that I've ever met. She stands for a world where compassionate leadership is the norm, not the exception. We spoke about the Center for Compassionate Leadership and how individuals and organizations can build awareness, resilience, trust, innovation, diversity, belonging, inclusion, courage, connection, and compassion. I had a lot of fun talking with Laura about compassion and mindfulness, and also about how to make the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey, Laura Berland. Oh my
Hey.
What is going on? Oh my goodness, how are you? It's so really good to see you with all my heart. It's so nice to know you're here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Keith, for this beautiful invitation and such a lovely reception. Like, I feel received and honored to be with you.
Thank you. And you know, I so admire you, and I know you for so many years. We won't say how many years, but I know you for so many years, and I really feel all along I've really looked up to you as a role model. You've done some incredible work, and now you're the founder and the executive director for the Center for Compassionate Leadership, and you've had so many iterations and so many like past lives, and I've known you through a lot of those lives. Tell me, you've been a CMO with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and you've been involved in strategic digital content, a CEO. You've been involved with all these areas, so many of them, ephemeral in some regard. I mean, technology is like that. But now you're involved in this other kind of technology, this inner technology, this inner wisdom with the Center for Compassionate Leadership. Tell me why compassion and what's it got to do with leadership?
What's love got to do with it? Everything.
What's love got to do with it?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, here comes the music and the song. That's great. Thank you. No, it really is all about love. And I feel that in the earlier part, in the early days when I was a youngin', my passion was really around technology as a means for connecting people, as a means for education and to promote flourishing and thriving. It's fair to say technology's taken a bit of a turn off the path of being of benefit for all. And hopefully we can, realign some basic human.
So when you say it's taken a path off, you mean it's really separated us in some way, or annihilated us, or numbed us, or is it another numbing device? Is that
all of the above? All of the above. You and I might remember we used to have pagers.
I was an early pager guy. That's true. I thought it was the panacea for mankind, technology.
Yeah, and we were on call all the time, right? And when was that? Decades and decades ago. These things don't matter anymore. But everybody is holding, a device in their hand or their pocket or on their wrist that is pulling their attention outward on a constant basis, and on a basis that is really tapping into the innate pathways in the body that create addiction, that create suffering. Certainly,
let me interrupt you. So when you say the innate pathways, you're talking about our capability to be intuitive, to have a sense of self, a sense of other, a sense of the world around us, or is it more intrinsic than that? Is it sort of a care, love, compassion as you're involved? Is that what you mean?
I wish it was tapping into those things. No, it's tapping into dopamine, cortisol, and creating stress and suffering.
Technology.
The technology is.
I got it. It's bypassing those capabilities.
It is, and we're losing our sense of self and the inner landscape and the ability to focus and pay attention. And so my hope is that the values and the ethics in the current business of technology is becoming aware of how off track we've gotten, back to my initial comment, and looking for ways. Technology is part of our world at this point in time, and may even help us save the world at this point in time, but not without the help of art. So I really feel as if, technology needs to come back, and the designers and the creators of new technology. And it's so beautiful that technology has become so widespread and democratized, so it is so much more accessible to people. And it's also pulling us in directions as a human species that are frankly dangerous. So there's a lot of stuff to unpack in the technology space. But what was your question?
Yeah. So why compassion? And I think
compassion.
Yeah. And I just want to get back to what you just said, because I think there is a collective trauma that's going on using technology, right? There is that idea that we're 24/7 wired in, that we're wired into the news cycle, that we're wired in, it's the TikTok, ADD has gone beyond ADD, it's sort of micro ADD. It's that whole idea that we are who we are based on the way the world sees us, or the way we see the world, right? I mean, so it's not about that. You're stripping that away, and you're saying, no, technology is one thing, but underneath that is compassion. And I want to understand that. Why compassion? Does it work? Why are you doing what you're doing, and is it working?
I mean, our basic fundamental human nature is to be caring toward each other. This was how we survived and evolved as a species. And our modern way of living, including technology, including competition, including many aspects of the way the world operates today, has stripped us of that fundamental awareness and the capacity to feel that natural compassion arise within ourselves. So if we're busy running 24/7, click, 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 we're not listening and feeling these natural signals from our body and from our community and from the collective that enable us to flourish and thrive. And that's why I feel that humanity really needs to wake up to its true compassionate nature. It's not like we have to learn this stuff. We just need to get things out of the way to allow it to come forth.
I like that. I like that a lot. And, I was speaking with someone recently. We were talking about the whole idea of the collective, the whole idea of the me, the we, the us, and the fact that we're in a society that, certainly Western culture is really individuated. If you're not someone, if you're not your own person, if you're not your own identity, and you are not connected, you are your stuff, you are your work, you are, and I think a lot of that's changing. So we're, the whole framework for our talk is around the mindfulness experience, and you're really focusing in on the area of compassion. So how does mindfulness fit in that? What does mindfulness have to do with compassion? Is it, I mean, I can get a hug, but is it a mindful hug, or, what is it about hugging, or, what is it about?
The true Keith comes out. I love that you brought up the collective and the issue of separation versus connection, because that to me is really at the core of everything. And I feel like there almost is no separation between mindfulness and compassion. If you look at academic definitions of compassion, it all starts with mindfulness / awareness, however you want to define it. You have to notice what's happening. If I'm just coming in to hug you and I'm just sort of like running into you in the street, there's no, without even seeing you coming toward me, or, I'm just going to butt heads with you. Right. But if I see you and I feel something naturally, I relate to you, I sense you, all of these aspects of mindfulness, which I really love to think of for myself more as awareness, just a wholehearted, whole-bodied, non-separate awareness.
Right. Okay. So there is that sense of not only having the awareness of me, but having the awareness of you. And, I love this quote. Mark Leonard quoted it, I relate, therefore I am. And the whole idea of relationship, you just reminded me of, if you don't have a framework to go ahead and be in relationship to, then, you can be a mindful sharpshooter, but, what do you, how are you really relating to people, and what does it mean? So do you teach these tools at the Compassionate Leadership Institute, the Center for Compassionate Leadership?
Thank you. It's a Center for Compassionate Leadership. Yes, absolutely, because we feel it's so important to wake up these skills and to develop these capacities within leaders, because leaders have the leverage point to accelerate things fast. And dare I say, as a planet, as a people, we are rushing very quickly toward an outcome that does not bode well. So I feel a very profound sense of urgency to illuminate the potential that exists within all of us as individuals, as a collective, within organizations. And leaders have the sphere of influence to bring about change at a pace that I think we must accelerate.
Right. At the center, how do you do that? I mean, because there are people who are toxic, there are people who are coming in from dysfunctional backgrounds and dysfunctional relationships. I mean, what does that really look like? Is it a group effort? Do people have practices that they implement? Can you share with that a little bit for our listeners?
Sure. So, I mean, the principles work from the inside out, right? We have to start with what's going on inside, whether we're a CEO or whether we're a mid-level person or just a team member or mate or a farmer. We all have to start on the inside. And we work together in community because I am a very strong believer that we cannot become ourselves by ourselves, that transformation is really, we need bandmates to move along the path. And we learn from each other.
Right.
It's not like anybody has a magic formula. It's like and I want to bring us back to what you said before about, being in relationship. What that means to me is really appreciating the field between us and feeling into that it's like fertile soil. There is like potential in the field between us, and we have to come together to both recognize each other and recognize our potential. Yes, we all have individual assignments, so to speak, and how to contribute. And yet we need each other to light each other up and do the work. This is not like baking cookies.
This is not like baking cookies. Oh my goodness.
I don't know where that came from.
I love that. But suddenly I have a visceral memory of the smell of baking cookies. So.
Which is a yummy thing. And I was just looking for something that's super simple, and we want it to be easeful too. This work that we are committed to as evolving humans on the planet right now, this takes a lot of courage, takes a lot of bravery to face what is, to face and name what actually is, and then to work collectively to find solutions.
Right. So if I look at some of the basic principles of mindfulness, there's like breathing processes, there is attention processes, there is awareness processes. So these are all about, mind, body, senses, the ability to go ahead and be embodied, right? And then there is sort of the higher practices, which really are about imprinting, about, having some values, some core values that really allow you to, put in place when you get into that point where you have that gap. I think you said something, about intention, awareness, and courage, in your practice, right? The whole idea of having, when you're in that spot between stimulus and response, when you're in that bit of that gap, and the more you practice, the wider the gap, you have a choice. What do you put in that gap? How do you go ahead and face that? How do you look at that? And how do you go ahead and seed it with the right intention, right? With the wider awareness and the right courage. So can you talk to that? Because I have a sense that that's intrinsic to the kind of work you're doing. Is that true? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love that you started from the place of embodiment, because that is fundamental to all the work, right? You have to not only like mentally process that all of this stuff matters, you have to embody it. You need to feel it. You need to live it in every cell of your body. And every breath that you take, my in-breath is your out-breath.
But it's a practice. It's a practice. You're not perfect, right? You're not perfect.
I sign up to 100% imperfection. Thank you. Because
but the intention is to do it, right?
The intention is where our embodied sense of purpose and where our embodied sense of caring and kindness leads us. So I can show up with a lot of intentionality when I wake up in the morning, because I can feel into what am I here to do, and where do I put my energy, and where my attention goes, my energy follows, right? And where that goes, transformation follows, and facing the things between intention and transformation does take a whole bunch of courage. So I sometimes can muster up the courage I need, and sometimes I'm challenged to be as brave as I know I need to be. There's this thing called fear that shows up, or doubt.
False evidence appearing real. Yes.
And because we are all human, these are human tendencies that we have, and certainly illuminated and amplified because of our cultural conditioning. So I can't do that, or who am I to do that, or all those difficult questions that show up that keep you from moving into action. And action is where we all need to be.
I love that you frame it that way, because it isn't perfect. And one of the things that you started out with before was about really recognizing this sort of, I call it liminal space, the space between you and me, that really is a space of unknowing. It's an unknowing space. But within the context or confines of a relationship, and everyone is in relationship, we're either in relationship with ourselves or relationship with the world, there is that opportunity to have a conversation. If you're able to be aware of it, to be embodied with it. So within the work that you do you help individuals create the space, create the safe containers to go ahead and have those conversations, which can be very difficult and very challenging to compassion?
Absolutely. And I think leaders are especially fearful of having those moments where they expose their vulnerability, and they have to admit they don't know everything, because none of us know much of anything, just as you said. Some people think they do. Yeah. And at moments, we all think we do. I think that that goes with a lot of our, again, our cultural attunement to what brings success and competition and so forth. But the space, creating the space. Thank you. So I feel that until you experience that sense of safety, connection, and belonging for yourself, it's almost impossible to create a culture or an environment or a team or an organization that can live in that sort of sense of safety. And until somebody really feels that, if you and I are in the room and you feel threatened by me on some level, you're not going to bring your whole self forward. You're going to, have your heart defended. You're going to, So yes, we help leaders understand what that feels like by being in community that is safety, connection, and belonging. And we do this over 8-week trainings, and we do this over long-term community. And then they can cultivate that sense in their own field of action, their own site of action, whether it's an organization or a family or a community or wherever it is. But I think somebody really needs to understand what that means and practice it.
Now, I've been on one of your community calls, and I have to say you've done just an excellent job online. I mean, through a Zoom room, being able to do breakouts and being able to have regular practice. You've done an excellent job with very quickly creating community, and I think it's based on the tone and the intention that you ask people to bring into it, and the discussion. So when you look at intention, awareness, and courage, those words really go into practice. I'm wondering, you wrote an article about the 4 steps to overcome negativity bias, because I think that's, for many people, that's a real challenge. I mean, negativity bias, we're sort of prone to, whether or not it's I don't know whether or not it's just science or what it is. I mean, but you had some ideas about that. Can you speak to that for a moment? You remember that article?
Let's see. Awareness, kindness, common humanity, and practice.
Those were the four. Okay, so
yeah.
the four were mindful awareness, practice and kindness, recognize you're not alone, and keep practicing. Right. So, so is that like the secret? Is that the secret sauce?
I certainly believe it is, because this sense to orient ourselves to danger, to threat, to fear, to negativity, this negativity bias, which is well researched and understood scientifically, is what pulls us backward all the time. I kind of see that hook. What was that called? Like in vaudeville, where they hooked somebody on the neck and they dragged them off the stage.
That was definitely a hook. I don't know.
There was a hook, but we have this negative hook as humans. I mean, if I asked you to think about what transpired in the last day, you'd probably come up with 10 negative things and maybe one good thing, which is just sort of our orientation and the orientation of our brain to focus on threat and danger. Our brain is not wired, even though we get neurobiological rewards from focusing on what's good, it's not our natural orientation. So we have this paradox always pulling us between positive and negative. So we have to pay attention. We have to bring awareness to the situation. We have to make space for this kindness to arise. And then we need to remember the not alone part is really about common humanity. Like, oh, we are just all human. And in that recognition of common humanity comes a lot of forgiveness, comes a lot of space for imperfection. It's like, hey, we're just doing the best we can in this moment if your heart is pointing in the right direction. But we're all just human. We're not Superman. And then the practice part is so essential just because of the hook. Right? You have to come back and come back and come back and come back again. And there's no like reaching a goal. There's no place where, I've finally gotten to the top of the practice mountain. I'm done. We're never done. We're always having to reacquaint and remember the truth of who we are.
Yeah, well, that's it. Actually, I was going to ask you another question, but I feel like your answer or what you just talked about in those four keys, 4 steps, really answers because you had another post that says we can recall when we surmounted or when we overcame what seemed impossible. Why then are we so available to be our worst enemy and create our own obstacles? Right. So it's that negativity bias.
Yeah, totally. Do you call your inner critic? Do you have a name for your inner mean guy?
I actually do. I'm one of those people that have a name. Should I share my name? Oh, this is the first time.
It's your platform, baby.
I'm going public with my name. My inner name, my inner critic name is Morris. Morris is at it again. Oh no. I know, I go from Keith to Morris. It's mind-boggling. How do I do that?
Was it because of a BG or no?
I have no idea. It's like, I can't believe we just came back from a vacation. The plane was late. Oh my goodness. And I can't believe there was a big line. How was that? It was terrible. It rained the day we got there. Yeah, but we're Cancun. Imagine Cancun.
I honor so deeply that you have this deep sense of awareness that voice is so prevalent that you would actually honor it with a name. And in the naming, it probably lets Morris calm down a little.
And it gives my wife a little bit of something to chew on. Okay, Morris. Okay, it's time this. It's a handle. It's really something that we can hold on to.
I love that. I love that. But yeah, I mean, as soon as we accomplish something.
Wait. I'm not going to let you know that. Do you have a name for your inner critic? Come
My
on.
name changes frequently. I have a lot of different
Okay. All
inner
right.
selves. They each have their own little domain. Yeah. Yeah.
Not just one name, but many. I get it. Okay.
Many names.
Sybil, yes.
Many critics, many names. Let's
Yes.
just put them all under the Sybil umbrella. That's great.
But we digress, please. Yeah. So no, we
I
had
think
no. Okay.
I think acknowledging the power of our inner critic and discussing practices that allow us to move beyond that. One of the most fundamental things we all need to do, just to be happy, healthy people of purpose on the planet.
I love that. So that's really integrating. It's not separating or being divisive. It's really saying, it's okay. I hear you. There you go again. Oh yeah, come on. Okay, come here. So it's the RAIN thing. You recognize, you accept, you inquire, and then you nurture, right?
You nurture. I invite Sybil to have tea with me.
Exactly.
So that I am not creating more inner conflict.
Yeah, because what
here's the deal.
Persists.
Yeah, here's the deal. Just what you said, Keith. If we're in conflict, if we're in denial, it's gonna come back tenfold. And the more welcoming and accepting and allowing we can be with our parts of ourselves that we may not like, the parts of ourselves that may be very wounded and very challenged and very traumatized. Because if we don't do that within our individual self, how are we going to do it as a collective, right? So it's so important to think, and that's where the I'm not alone comes in, because we are all dealing with all of this all the time. And so is there really any separation between my wounded heart and the wounded heart of the collective? No.
And I think the work you're doing is so important, and it's so vital, because when you start taking a look at communities, organizations are really the communities of the 21st century, right? They are the communities where people go to often to seek refuge for lives that might be very, very complicated. To not only make a living, but this is where their friends are, this is where their buddies are, and if they can't find a safe place to be that's nurturing, that holds them and lifts them up, then what's the possibility of changing the world? Period. Right?
Exactly. Yes.
So,
well said.
So how do people find you, Laura, at the Center for Compassionate Leadership?
We're a nonprofit, so we're www.centerforcompassionateleadership.org. Yeah, and on most social channels, we're at Being Compassion. On LinkedIn, we're the Center for Compassionate Leadership, and I'm so grateful to be able to share these thoughts and share the opportunity for people to grow and develop so that we can all continue to contribute.
Yeah, and I want to lift up the work that you do because it's not just about you building, obviously, communities, which is at the heart of it all in organizations, and helping leaders to go ahead and do that. But you also lift up a lot of information specifically around compassion, about books that are out and channels. What will people find when they go to your website?
The website has gotten pretty rich over the past. We're just about to sort of take a step back and look at what's on there. But there's 3 years worth of weekly articles and blogs. There are book recommendations and reviews. There's a lot of research that we point to, because everything we do is evidence-based. And the beauty of this time is that the science is catching up with the wisdom. And we can, for people who need the data, point to the data, it's there. So we carry a lot of that. And then I will also just mention that we do it used to be a weekly newsletter. Mm-hmm. Now it's every other week or so. And we highlight research articles, case studies, and events that are going on that are of interest to leaders in the field.
Well, it's just a rich website, and you've just done just such a tremendous job, and I'm really so honored and really love you and care for you, and I said that so everyone hears it. Laura Berland, an absolute wonderful person. Visit her website, take a look at the work she's doing, and how would people get a hold of you through the website?
Sure, or lauraberland@gmail.com. And I just want to say, this isn't about me. This is about, all the great work that people are doing throughout the world, the researchers, the scientists, the people in leadership development in organizations, the leaders themselves. Again, this is a team effort. Like, nobody's going to fix the world alone. We really do need each other.
It's a collective effort to go ahead and deal with what I think is collective trauma. So, I think the work you're doing is outstanding and essential, and I'm glad to be a part of it. So I just want to thank you again for being here, for showing up, and
can I thank you as well for all your presence and passion that you put in the world, all the great work and helping people sort of recognize, the inner truth, their inner self. I love you as well as all you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And this is a non-paid announcement.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of the Mindfulness Experience podcast. I hope you enjoyed this compassionate and honest conversation with Laura Berland. I also hope that you gained some insights about how organizations and leadership teams can incorporate compassionate training into their development programs to create better leaders. Please follow the podcast to connect with future ones as well. Subscribe, leave us a review, and suggest topics that you'd like to hear. Connect with us on social media platforms. Visit our website at workmindfulness.com for more mindfulness experiences. Thank you again. See you on the next show. Take care.